Welcome to today's webinar on simplifying mutable VM management. I'm your host Felician, and I'm a marketing manager at Maxima Consulting, where we help global companies solve their IT problems. I'm today here with Rajit Krishnan, the CEO of Cloud Control. Rajit, please tell the audience a bit about yourself and the things you do at your company.
Thanks, Felician. Thanks for organizing this. So I'm Rajit Krishnan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cloud Control. We have the platform AppZ, which enables enterprises and startups and medium-sized businesses to adopt cloud. So we migrate, manage cloud workloads for our customers. We use automation. So our goal is to make cloud look like an appliance to our customers. So the way we think about cloud is that if you're using a cloud resource, and if you're not using cloud like an appliance, there is a lot of efficiencies you can bring to your process. So once it looks like an appliance, your team members will work better, and your cloud utilization will become more optimal, and your cloud bills will be optimal, as well as your resilience and security will be optimal as well. So thanks again. So let's start.
Yeah, so can you provide an example of a template-based deployment on your platform? And or maybe just explain how it actually simplifies the process of
Sure.
provisioning
Um,
and managing VMs.
Sure. And so to get to that, I prepared a few slides. So the number one, what are we doing in the cloud, right? So when you look at enterprises, what are they doing in the cloud? They want cloud to be a better place to host the applications. So you want to achieve better time to market and scalability. You want to make sure that your cost of ownership is low. You have better agility. You want to collaborate better, and you want to improve your security, and also you want to innovate better. So that's the kind of basic set of goals that any company would have. Now, I know you mentioned the word template. So what AppZ does is AppZ provides templates for every task that you can think of in the cloud. Like you want to deploy an application, or if you want to bring up a website, you want to get a patch deployed, or you want to release a new version of your application. Um, so what AppZ does is AppZ created templates. So because cloud is software defined, pretty much everything can be coded or scripted, because every cloud provider provides APIs that you can call. They have their own templating mechanism. They have their own APIs and scripting mechanism. What we have done is we created a multi-cloud compatible templating mechanism that spans across all the cloud providers. And behind the scenes, we're using the underlying scripting and templating that the individual cloud provider provides. So our user experience to our customers would be that you take any use case, and a simple use case would be I have a website, I want to deploy the website. You can do that across multiple cloud with the same user experience for your operations team and developers. So the way we achieve that is we use templates. So we have created templates. The templates are smart enough to figure out what cloud it is deploying to, and it takes the assets that the customer owns, like the web content, the website, graphics, the look and feel. We basically put all that in Git, leverage Git as a single source of truth, leverage Git for change management using Git flow, and then we will hook the Git to our platform running in the customer's account, which will basically use our templates to deploy that content or the artifacts into cloud. So that's our template-based approach. We have templates for most of the use cases that any customer would need in the cloud.
So, Rajit, how many tools can your tool replace? So, what would
Good,
be the actual savings when it comes to that?
good question. So in order to achieve the cloud goals properly, typically you need an automation system where you can run in the cloud world. It's called a pipeline. You want a pipeline that would take your assets and push it into the cloud, and in that process you will need change management, and also you need security scanners to ensure that what you're deploying is secure. You want hardened images, and also once it is deployed you will need observability. You want because the idea is to make the cloud look like an appliance. That's the most efficient way to use cloud. So when you do that, you need that set of tools. So let me show you another slide I prepared. Go into full screen as well so you can see it clearly. So here is how the AppZ platform works. And to answer your question, what are the tools I would need, right? So if you look at that, any customer, on the right hand side you have their infrastructure, which is, it could be AWS, Azure, Google. Now Oracle is a big player, and it could be also on-prem like VMware or OpenShift. So you have different workloads running on the right side, or that's your infrastructure, and that's where your workloads are running. And on the left-hand side, you have the different people involved. So let's take two specific use cases, or two specific roles. Number one, developers. A lot of enterprises use their own developers, or maybe they outsource to developers to develop new products, new software, and even bug fixes and things like that. So you want their changes to hit the hosting environment. Now, what are the tools that they need? They need Git to manage the source. Then from there, they need some sort of pipeline that will take the content from the Git, build all the binaries, and push that into the cloud. So you need a pipeline. You need a mechanism by which you can manage the deployments. And then once it is deployed, you will need tools like observability. And each of these areas, there are tons of tools out there. So what we are doing is we are actually packaging all that together, right? And now when it comes to observability, you also need to integrate observability with good dashboards, and also incident management, and also your collaboration engines like Slack and Teams and email.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings or not, but basically you created one tool to rule them all, to rule all the cloud platforms.
That's right. So the idea of our platform is to ensure that when a customer wants to deploy to one cloud or multiple cloud, doesn't matter. You get all the tools out of the box. So, and again, we are leveraging a lot of existing open source tools. Like, for example, for observability, we leverage Prometheus. That's a standard nowadays for time series data. So that's Prometheus stores all the metrics information. And when it comes to log, we use Elastic. And we also support other vendors like Datadog and say Splunk. So the idea is to make sure that you get a cloud appliance like feel, but at the same time you stick with the standards that are out there, and also licenses that you already have. We can help you leverage that, but at the end of the day, you get that appliance kind of feel.
Awesome. So you basically simplify the whole process for the whole company. They don't have to, look into dozens of tools. They can, choose yours, and it will solve the problem.
Right. So one of the challenges, for example, nowadays a lot of our customers are leveraging Kubernetes, right? And today's, I know the discussion is about VMs, but let's take an example. Kubernetes, it's very complex, but it can achieve a lot. Now, now does Kubernetes come with its own observability? No. You have to put observability on top of it. You have to build your own pipeline on top of it. So the challenge for any enterprise is when you adopt a cloud for either containers or VMs, it doesn't matter. You have to have the skills. Either you train your team members, which takes a long process, and then remember, when you train, they are going to do all these things for the first time. So they might make mistakes. So that means you're losing time every time they make a mistake. So Now, let's say you're hiring somebody. It's not an easy thing to hire, right? For example, there are so many tools, everyone comes with their own opinions. And when you put together a team that's hired, they all have to gel together. So that poses another challenge. So we have seen time and again where, hey, I hired one vendor to do the operations, another vendor to do the pipeline. They don't agree.
Yeah.
Now that becomes a challenge. So what we are trying to solve is saying, hey, let's have everything ready in a single package with options to plug and play. So for example, if observability, if we don't like Elastic, okay, you want to use Datadog, that should be just a flag or a switch. So you can your complete infrastructure switches to Datadog or Splunk by flip of a switch rather than coding it again, because these are problems already solved. Now you don't want to hire somebody and then let them experiment with it and make mistakes and
Exactly.
get done, right? So that takes time. So a lot of the cloud migration projects are failing because um, the way the engineers underestimate the effort required. That is crucial. So most of the time they underestimate, they jump in, then they realize that everything is not gelling together. So what do? That project fails, and then they have to restart again. So what we are trying to solve is, hey, use templates for every kind of integration, every kind of deployment, every use case, every ops, standard operating procedures. There can be templates out there. So we coded everything that is required. We have a good coverage by now. We have I know more than 350 plus applications running on our platform now across multiple customers. So we have covered most of the use cases. So that means we can onboard somebody quick. Now, how we are doing it? We are doing it using templates.
Right. Like that's the thing that the more people you involve, the more problems you're gonna have. Because as you said, more opinions, more approaches, and there is always friction. Like you can't build a team that will always get along. Like it's really
That's
difficult. But when it comes to your tool, like how is it different from the competitors? What's the biggest differentiator?
so the biggest differentiator. So we have. So let me make this full screen. So when you look at this, right, this is, you can look at it up from a reference architecture standpoint. Whether you use our platform or use, uh, a cloud platform or any other tool, you will need to achieve all this, right? Now, if the competition, when we look at competition, the way the templates integrate with the platform, I think we have a tighter integration, and we can prove it because for installing, setting up cloud infrastructure for you and deploying an application, we can do that pretty much in few days. So the reason why we are able to do that is because the power of template and the templates working with our platform to get all these pieces put together for you. Now, if you had to go and individually buy different products, so a lot of the service providers today, what they're doing is they're bringing different tools based on their experience and then gelling them together manually most of the time. So what we have done is we automated all that. Even the plug and play part is we automated it and made it declarative. So that means if we were to go to a customer, we have an installer that reads from a manifest and sets up everything based on the customer need. So we basically automated our own installation and setup and preparation of the landing zone. That is the secure area where your applications are going to run. It's all automated. So that way we are up and running quick, and the templates will then basically accelerate application migration into cloud as well, because our migration process is basically our engineers going and selecting the different templates required for different application components. They're not coding anything, they're just picking and saying, okay, this application would need this template, and here are the parameters that you want to put. And we put all that in a manifest and put it in the Git along with the application code, and that gets deployed. So it's very fast in terms of onboarding. It's basically powered by our unique templates.
And this makes it more client friendly. Like that's the
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, we make it. We went through enough customer onboardings now that our declarative onboarding process is really stable, and it covers a lot of use cases. Then again, if let's say tomorrow a new customer comes in with a new requirement that we haven't covered yet, we are very quick in adding that feature or adding that use case into our onboarding process.
That's great. And Rajit, can you walk us through the platform and show it?
Yes. So today we are going to cover one particular use case, which is VM management. So when it comes to cloud infrastructure today, I think more than 95%, I might be wrong, but a big chunk or a serious chunk of workloads are running in VMs. Now, some of those VMs are not um, in an immutable mode. In the ideal world, you want everything to be immutable, so you can deploy them as many times as you want. And but the problem is there are workloads that need to be mutable. That means you set up a VM, you provision a VM, and then you need changes to go into that VM on a regular basis. So that means when a new version is released, an existing VM need to be updated with that change. Now, that is the mutable mode. In the immutable mode, you're going to create a new VM image and push that image, it creates a new VM. And load will be, or traffic will be routed to the new VM. And that's what they do in the containers. That's the default mode. But in VMs, you have mutable and immutable workloads. So today, I'm going to walk you through a mutable VM management through our platform. So let me make this full screen. So here, on the right-hand side, you have the different workloads. And today I'm going to show you a dev VM hosting a .NET web page. It's a simple web page that we created just for the demo. So in a typical enterprise scenario,
I'm not sure if we are seeing the right slide because it still shows the AppZ platform architecture.
yes, I'm walking through that.
Okay.
I'll basically walk you through that flow, and then I'll show you the
Okay.
demo of the. I'll show you the page as well.
Awesome.
So on the right hand side, you see the different environments. On the left hand side, you see developers. So today, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pretend to be a developer. I'm going to make a change. So I'm going to show you a page where I'm going to make a change, and that change will flow through this process and this platform, and the change will get updated in a already existing VM. So I'm going to share my screen. So here is and the application. So I'm going to walk you through this. Now, this is a clock. It's a simple JSP page written, hosted in an ASP IAS instance. Now, this is basically showing the clock, and it has some simple attributes like title on the top and the version number and the value that is displayed here, which is called nano. So let me show you the source code of this. So I'm going to go to my public repository, which is github.com/Rajat, and this is the project. So hello.NET VM is the source code of this particular application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change. Now, remember, the idea is to make the change. That change need to reflect in the deployment in the VM. So let's make few changes to the application. Think of it as a bug fix or a new version or a new enhancements that your developer is doing. So let me go and change. I'm going to open the AppZ manifest. So here, the actual ASP page is here. You can look at this. It's IAS start.aspx. So you can see the code here. Again, this is a public repo. Now I'm going to, so in the ASP page, we are using some variables. So you can see that, it is reading some variables, and these variables are defined in our manifest. So this is part of our onboarding process. We follow best practices in terms of externalizing variables so that the same source code can be deployed in multiple environments. So here I'm going to go and change. So these are the title or the attributes that I'm going to change. Title is one of them. So let's edit, and I'm say, so I'll change it to webinar demo, and I'll change this to I'm going to change this. So I'm changing this title, and I'm changing the background color, and I'm also changing the value here. So then all I need to do is now I made the changes. I'm going to hit commit. Now it's committed. Now let's look at what is happening behind the scenes. So I pretend to be a developer. I made the commit, and that is flowing into the gitops engine, which is running in which is a component within our platform. It's picking up the changes. It is now building the artifacts or pulling the artifacts, validating it, and then building the binary and pushing the binary to an auditable repository. And from there, it is triggering the deployment manager, and the deployment manager is creating the manifest and the scripts required to deploy this into the VM. So in this case, what the template is written in Ansible, and it's basically executing Ansible script to update that website. Now while this is going on, so this takes about, in this particular case, it's a VM deployment or VM update. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes. So meanwhile, I want to show you what from an observability standpoint, um, the pipeline activities, you want to make sure that you have visibility into the pipeline activities. So let's look at the dashboard that we provide. So I'm going into our dashboard. So you can see this is the application that I just deployed. This came from the manifest here. So you can see the name and the version number. So
There
here,
is still the previous slide visible.
sorry about that. Okay, let me.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to see that now, right?
No, yes, now we can see it.
All right. So now so what is happening now is, so I made the change, and I got it's now in the deployment process. So here is the dashboard. This is the AppZ dashboard. So you can see that, this is here is one record that shows you the application that got deployed. Here is the application name defined and the version number defined in the manifest. And based on that, you can figure out what row represents this particular deployment that I just did. So this row represents the deployment I just did, and it is deployed to a dev environment. And this column here shows me everything about the GitOps engine. So the artifacts that got built, and it also shows you the deployment log. Now, it has tons of information here in terms of what got what got built out of that project. Now, if you want to see, for example, things like, hey, what changes were made, you can see that by clicking on the link provided within that log, where it says, what changes were made. These are the changes, the 3 changes I made. Now, let's look at, so that's the build log or the Git ops engine log. Now, this column here shows me everything about the deployment. So here, it looks like, there are 3 deployments today. I did test it multiple times before. And here is the deployment log. Again, it shows you what happened during the deployment. Now, the next column here shows me what is happening in runtime. So here you can see there is one instance, and one instance looks good. So at this point, it says, at night, about 3 minutes back, it successfully deployed. And let's go and look at the application. So I'm going to reload it. You can see the changes are already applied. The same URL, the VM got updated by the changes that I made in the manifest. So now this could be any source code change. Now you can see that the appliance kind of feel, right? So the VM is there. VM is running somewhere in this. By the way, this is running in AWS, and I'm using the VM like an appliance. and my developers are making changes in Git and committing the change, and that gets reflected right in the VM through the magic of that automation and templates.
Yeah. So Regit, I will ask you because Dinesh asked us a question. How does the process of making changes to the VMs through GitOps work?
Right. So in this case, what happened was, let me switch to the diagram again. So the change was made here, and the change was committed, and the source is now hitting the Git. Now, the way behind the scenes, what happened was the a webhook hit our GitOps engine the moment at which the commit was done. Now, our GitOps engine, what it does is it creates a dynamic pipeline to take the content of the Git repository, and using our template, it will convert it into an image that gets deployed. So in this case, it packaged all the content of that website and pushed that into an image repository, and then triggered the deploy manager to execute the template. In this case, the template is written in Ansible. And what that Ansible template did is it took that content that was in the image repository and pushed that into the VM using an Ansible playbook. That's what happened behind the scenes. Now let's look at the application log. So now this application is running. So I'm going to hit a couple of times. So this it's basically hitting the IIS server and it's pulling the ASP page. So now let's look at the observability that is provided by the platform. So when I click here, I can see the CPU and memory usage of this application. So it is data collected from the VM. It is showing me, and we are pushing that into Prometheus. And from Prometheus we are pulling and showing this information. Now we have tons of information here, and I'll also show you a Grafana dashboard with the same data. Now, let's say I want to see the actual application log. All I need to do is click here. So what is happening here?
Regit, but we can still see the previous slide.
Sorry, there you go.
Yep.
I need to get good at that, switching between the screens. So sorry, I'll repeat it again. So here, so what I did is I clicked on this column here, and I can see this is the data from Prometheus. It's basically time series data collected from the VM, and we are basically storing it in Prometheus, and it's basically displaying it in charts. Now, this contains tons of information about CPU, memory, and things like that. Now, let's say I want to see the logs of the application. All I need to do is click here, and this is actually logs coming from the VM, and it is being sent to Elastic. We use Fluentd for that. So we use the Fluentd agent is pulling the logs from the VM and pushing it into Elastic, and this is the UI for the Elastic. So you can see, there are dots here. This is every dot represents 1 minute. So you click here and you can see the actual logs from the application. So the idea is, again, cloud like an appliance. So I was able to make a change, reflect it on the website, and I was able to now look at the performance metrics that was over here, and I was able to also pull the application logs all into a single dashboard without ever getting into the cloud infrastructure. So to me now the cloud looks like an appliance.
Yeah. So there is a number of questions on the chat. Like, I don't think we will be able to answer all of them. But Smruti asked, what are the benefits of implementing GitOps for mutable VM management?
Good question. So when it comes to GitOps, there is this misconception that the whole process only works for modern infrastructure that are immutable, like containers. But you can leverage GitOps for mutable workloads as well, and that's what we demonstrated today. The advantage is, irrespective of whether you are using a mutable or immutable deployment model, GitOps can be used for both. as long as you have the right templates and pipeline in place. So the benefit will be that, hey, irrespective of mutable or immutable, you still get to use cloud like an appliance.
Got it. And are there any security considerations or best practices to keep in mind when using Ansible, gitops, and AppZ for VM management?
Yes, the security consideration is very important. So when you're using cloud, cloud sits in a public infrastructure, or sits in an infrastructure where others can also get access, because anybody could take an AWS account, and you could be running along with other customers, other your competition, your local high school kids. They will all be running stuff along with you in AWS within the same data center. Now that means and the way you are secured is using what we call as landing zone policies. So you have to consider your policies that define your perimeter, and each cloud provider has their own set of policies. You definitely want to consider those policies, and we make sure that those policies are in place and is intact on a daily basis when you're deploying applications to cloud. Now, how does GitOps and an automated template-based process help you? When things are working like an appliance, what that means is you're not actually in the infrastructure changing things all the time. You're not giving your operations team and development team access to the infrastructure. That means chance of creating a security hole uh, due to a human error reduces tremendously. So figure out how to automate your deployment process and day-to-day operations, and that will help you in keeping your policies intact and making your infrastructure safe.
Awesome. Yeah. Our time is coming up, but you prepared the white paper. Can you tell what people would find in it?
Yes, so we prepared a white paper around VM management. So please do download it. The QR code is here. And if you have any other questions, please do contact us. You can contact us through LinkedIn. You can and also on our website. Again, we are a platform that enables you to make your cloud look like an appliance. So when it comes to full automation, we take care of onboarding your applications into cloud, migrating, modernizing, and managing it.
Awesome. So, Rajit, thank you very much for today,
Thank
for
you.
the
Thank you,
demo,
Felicia.
and yeah, answering all the questions.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.